Okay, so I looked at this and I decided that there was a better way. If I do the Control 1, I'll kind of see that geometry. So let's go ahead into a new part. And another option would be to use our parallelogram, hopefully, maybe. And then anytime you draw that first geometry and it doesn't quite work out, you're going to need to select those dotted lines and complete the drag. So we had 60 degrees, and then 1 inch, and a total of 3 inches. So this time I grabbed the horizontal, so I'm going to pick the other horizontal, and that's going to give me my overall. That would have the same effect of grabbing the line and dragging straight out, making sure that I get a vertical dimension. All right, so the issue becomes whether the layout sketch is going to help us, or we just see the geometry a certain way and then decide there was a better way, or in some cases that we'll want that geometry for a specific reason. So I'm going to go ahead and do a save. We'll pick the oblique, and I'm just going to call that the alternative. So we'll make this an optional. Be worthwhile to try the parallelogram and get used to these sketching tools, that you have a pretty good handle of what's involved in the geometry. So our prisms, let's go ahead and see what else we have in this. Okay, so let's go ahead with another part, and we'll just run through quick introduction to solid bodies. So if I draw on the front plane, and I want to make sure to go back to my corner rectangle, looking for that coincident to the origin. And then in this case, I'm going to hold down the control button. I've selected the first line, and I'm holding down the control to select the second line, and I'm going to set those to equal. All right, so as I'm going through and I'm manipulating the relations, if I wanted one of these to be an angle, I could highlight and hit delete on the keyboard. I'm going to do a Control Z so that comes back. And so it shows up as a green box. When I highlight it, it goes to gray. Or when I highlight and I go to the horizontal, now I'll be able to pick it. And what that's going to let me do is, as I rubber band this, instead of staying horizontal, it's going to allow me to move in different ways. Same with the vertical. If I delete that, so this is just a practice exercise to kind of see what is available with the geometry. Just because I've deleted it doesn't mean I can't put it back. I'll just go make horizontal, make vertical, and now when I pick those geometry, I'm going to see those little green boxes. By default, I want to say the sketch relations are turned on. So at some point when the little green boxes start to take over, you will want to turn those off. We'll go back up to our hide show items and turn those off, because as you select geometry, you're going to see the things that are equal, the vertical, the horizontal, the coincident, and those are the items that you want to start getting familiar with the terminology. So we're going to stay with the 2-inch. And if I add another 2-inch in this case, because I set a relation that has priority, this 2-inch is going to create an over-defining condition. Right, so make this dimension driven, okay, or leave this dimension driving. If I leave it driving, I'm going to get the little red arrows and the warnings. But if I leave it driven, it's going to go to gray, and it's just there for reference. So when I make this a little bit bigger and rebuild, I guess it rebuilt. Oh, Yeah, probably a good time to go ahead and do this since I rebuilt and I was in the sketch and I thought I had made my extrude feature already. I am out of the sketch. This will also happen if for some reason I decide, oh, hey, I'm in metric and I want to be an inch, or I'm an inch and I want to be metric. So when I change over to metric, it will also kick me out of the sketch. So in that case, I want to right-click and edit the sketch, or go to one of my pieces of geometry and edit the sketch. Or, because there has to be so many ways to do everything, as long as that's highlighted, and go to the sketch, it will put me back into the geometry. So instead of 3 inches, we're at 76.2. I can adjust those to more nominal metric numbers, 75, and the 75 will update. And when I go ahead and extrude that base out, I'm going to see that my scale also goes to metric, and we'll set that to 75. All right, so we've been making these solids, and right now I have one solid body. So if I expand that out, I can see Boss Extrude 1. So to manage this, I can right-click and hide it, and it will disappear. If I go back into the top and open a sketch, and again, my force of habit is to right-click and go into the sketch. Then we will look for that coincident, drag out some distance. Maybe this one can be 100. And my design intent, this one may grow, so I'm not sure in what ways. So we'll go ahead and set those dimensions independent rather than equal. And when I extrude these out, then I will go ahead and set, since it's in blue, I can just type and it will overwrite. And we have the 100 by 100 by 100 cube. Now I have a second solid body. Those are not combined, they're not joined. The geometry is independent. So if I hide that one more time, we have created geometry on the front plane, the top plane, and now we'll go to the right plane. And then one more, I'll make a small one. So 25 by 25. And if I go back to my isometric, hitting Control 7 on the keyboard, and to the features, I can extrude and also go 25. All right, so it's showing the 100, but as I create the geometry, it will update. And then hide. Now I could keep generating these, and this has quite a bit of functionality in creating our shape. So depending on which way we go, how we perform those extrudes, we're going to have 3 separate items. One thing of note, SOLIDWORKS does not care that you are violating the physics of an object into another object. These are all independent objects, so when we look at something like mass properties, going into the evaluate and doing a mass properties, it's going to take the mass properties of all of the geometry. If this was merged, trying to think of the terminology, if this was merged, that little cube in there would have no net effect. It would be merged into the larger cube, and we would see a reduction in mass. Right, so if I were to go back into edit, all right, so getting back into the feature, I right-click on that feature, go to edit feature, and then if I merge the result, now that is going to disappear. Also notice that we jump back to 1 because Extrude 2 also merged, because that little box, well, I'm not sure because that little box was touching, but I lost that line. So interesting. Somewhere in that merge result, oh, now we have the feature scope. All right, so when we do the types of merging, we have one more thing we have to be worried about, and that would be the items that this is going to be applied to. So again, this is more for future reference. Start getting used to the terminology. And I thought I did that, but it's already showing up there. That should have been merged into Boss Extrude 1. And then we'll check Extrude 2. Oh, okay, so in that case I joined it to the wrong one, or I merged it to the wrong one. So we'll get that deleted. And then I'll just go ahead and pick the solid. All right, so there's some things that are intuitive, some things that we're just going to have to pay attention to. So we went from 1475 down to 1421. That solid got absorbed. All right, so just some mentions with the solid bodies. We'll be taking a look at those again later on, and they again do have a lot of functionality that we can leverage going through and generating our shapes.